When Eleanor Hayes was only 23 years old, tragedy changed her life forever. Her younger brother Daniel had just turned 12 when their parents died in a devastating highway accident. Overnight, Eleanor stopped being a carefree young woman chasing her dreams and became a mother, father, guardian, and provider to the only family she had left. She dropped out of graduate school, sold the engagement ring her late fiancé had given her, and accepted 2 exhausting jobs just to keep Daniel in a good school. Every paycheck disappeared into tuition fees, rent, medical bills, and the countless sacrifices that only a parent truly understands. While her friends married, traveled the world, and built successful careers, Eleanor quietly buried every personal dream so Daniel could have the future she never would. Daniel always promised that one day he would repay her. "You won't regret believing in me," he often said. Those words became Eleanor's strength during endless nights when she skipped meals so Daniel could eat, worked double shifts, and cried alone in the darkness where no one could see her. Years passed. Daniel graduated from college with honors and launched a technology startup. Eleanor emptied her retirement savings and mortgaged the small family home to invest in his company when banks refused to believe in him. Her money kept the company alive during its hardest year. Eventually, investors noticed Daniel's success. Newspapers called him a self-made entrepreneur. Television interviews celebrated his inspiring journey. Each time the reporters asked who had supported him, Daniel simply smiled. "I built everything myself." Eleanor ignored the pain. She believed he was just nervous. Then Daniel met Victoria Monroe, the glamorous daughter of billionaire investor Richard Monroe. Their relationship moved quickly, and within a year, they announced an extravagant wedding that attracted politicians, celebrities, business leaders, and international media. Eleanor spent weeks searching for the perfect dress. She imagined Daniel introducing her proudly as the woman who sacrificed everything for him. Instead, the first wound came before the ceremony even began. Her invitation listed her simply as guest. No mention of sister. No mention of guardian. No mention of family. When she quietly asked Daniel's assistant if there had been a mistake, the woman awkwardly replied, "Mr. Hayes requested it personally." Still, Eleanor convinced herself it wasn't intentional. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers. A live orchestra played softly while billionaires toasted champagne beneath golden lights. Then Daniel stood at the stage beside his new father-in-law. Richard Monroe proudly introduced him. "My son-in-law is proof that determination alone creates success." Daniel built his empire with absolutely no help from anyone. The audience applauded. Daniel accepted the microphone. "I've always believed that if you work hard enough, you don't need anyone. Everything I have today was built by my own hands." Eleanor's smile disappeared. She waited. Surely he would thank her. Instead, Daniel glanced toward her table and casually said, "Some people like taking credit for sacrifices they never actually made." The room laughed. Victoria smiled politely. Richard Monroe nodded with approval. It felt as though every sacrifice Eleanor had ever made had been erased with one sentence. Quietly, she stood up and walked toward the exit. As she reached the hallway, a young event coordinator rushed after her. "Ma'am, I think this belongs to your family." She handed Eleanor an expensive leather briefcase. It was left in the bridal suite. The initials on the handle read, "Ditch. Daniel Hayes." Eleanor intended only to return it. But as she picked it up, the lock unexpectedly clicked open after falling against the wall. Inside were legal documents, acquisition contracts, investor agreements, bank statements. At first she looked away. Then one page caught her attention. The signatures. She froze. She recognized one immediately. It belonged to the company's original investor, Mr. Leonard Brooks. Except, Leonard had died 8 months earlier. Yet his signature appeared on contracts dated only 3 weeks ago. Eleanor slowly turned another page. Another forged signature. Another. Then confidential emails. One message read, "No one will question the deceased signatures after the merger closes." Another. "Destroy the originals after the wedding." Her hands trembled. This wasn't just dishonesty. It was federal fraud involving tens of millions of dollars. She closed the briefcase. For several minutes she stood alone, staring at the ballroom doors. She could leave. She could pretend she had never seen anything. Or she could finally stop protecting the man who had destroyed her life. She walked back inside. At that exact moment, Daniel announced the biggest achievement of his career. Our $50 million merger officially begins tonight. Thunderous applause filled the ballroom. The lawyers prepared the ceremonial signing. Television cameras moved closer. The master of ceremonies invited everyone to witness history. Then a calm female voice interrupted. "Excuse me." Every head turned. Eleanor slowly walked toward the stage carrying the briefcase. Daniel's face instantly lost its color. "What are you doing?" he whispered. She ignored him. Instead, she asked for the microphone. Richard Monroe frowned. "This isn't the time." Eleanor looked directly into the cameras. "I'm afraid there won't be a merger tonight." Silence spread across the ballroom. She lifted several contracts high enough for everyone to see, because these documents contain forged federal signatures. The room froze. Daniel lunged forward. "She's confused." Eleanor calmly opened the briefcase. "I worked as a legal administrator for 14 years before giving up my career to raise my brother." She placed document after document on the signing table. "I know the difference between an original signature and a forgery." The company's attorneys rushed forward. Within seconds, their expressions changed from confidence to panic. One lawyer whispered, "Stop the ceremony." Another immediately called compliance officers. Richard Monroe grabbed the documents himself. His face turned ghost white. This can't be real." "It is," Eleanor answered quietly. "And every email proving it is stored inside this briefcase." Daniel tried grabbing the evidence. Security intercepted him. Guests pulled out their phones. Journalists abandoned the wedding and surrounded the stage. Within minutes, federal investigators, who had already been monitoring parts of the acquisition, were contacted by the legal team. The merger was immediately suspended pending investigation, and the celebration collapsed into chaos. Victoria removed her wedding ring before the reception had even begun. Richard Monroe publicly withdrew every investment connected to Daniel's company. The business empire Daniel claimed to have built alone fell apart in a single evening. Months later, investigations confirmed widespread financial fraud, forged documents, and multiple criminal offenses. Daniel faced prosecution, lost his company, and watched every award, interview, and magazine cover become meaningless evidence of a carefully constructed lie. Eleanor never celebrated his downfall. She simply returned to living a quiet life. Using the settlement from the sale of her family home and compensation she later received as a protected whistleblower, she founded a non-profit organization that helped orphan children receive education without sacrificing their futures the way she had sacrificed hers. One afternoon, years later, a young journalist asked her if she regretted exposing the person she had loved like a son. Eleanor smiled gently. "I didn't destroy his life." She looked toward the children laughing outside the classroom windows. "I spent 20 years trying to save it." He destroyed it the day he believed gratitude could be replaced with lies. Because revenge isn't always about anger. Sometimes, the greatest revenge is allowing the truth to stand where your silence once protected someone who never deserved it.